What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. I have an interesting video for you today. So, Representative Eric Burleson recently went on Tim Pool's podcast and talked about being briefed by scientist Eric Davis about the different types of alien species that exist on this planet. Now, we'll get into all of this, so let's do this. All right. Before we do that, please hit that like button, Vetters. That really helps out the videos. And, of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I put out new videos every week about the UFO phenomena. Let's go. So, first, I'm going to play you this clip that happened a couple weeks ago at the UAP Disclosure Fund briefing with a few congressional members, right? And Eric Burleson was sitting there with scientist Eric Davis, and Eric Davis just started to tell him about the different alien species that exist on this planet, right? And then the second clip that I have is the new one, right, of Eric Burleson on Tim Pool talking about it. But thought I'd play you the original clip so you know exactly what Eric Burleson is talking about when I play that clip. So again, here is scientist Eric Davis explaining to Representative Eric Burleson at that famous event where Lou Elizondo showed that crazy UFO picture that got debunked, right? That same event, this happened.
Are they multiple species? Are they like, what was their size, and how many are usually on a craft?
They're typically the multiple species. People are familiar with the Greys, the Nordics. People have talked about reptilians and insectoids. It's not that they're reptilian or insectoid, it's that they resemble to the recipient of reptile or an insect type humanoid, because they have a head and 4 limbs and torso.
So large? Small?
Human size, human scale.
And how many are accrued?
Well, the Greys I'm familiar with from investigating the crash at Corona, which is misnamed the crash at Roswell. It's not the crash at Roswell, it's the crash at Corona in Mexico. Those were Greys, those are 4 foot tall. And the Nordics are typically human size, probably, I've heard 5 to 6 feet tall. And same with the people who mislabel reptilian and insectoid, they're roughly that height too. I haven't heard anything about anything 7 or 8 feet or 9 feet tall of that nature.
All right, so now that you've heard that, let's move to this brand new clip from, again, Representative Eric Burleson on Tim Pool's podcast talking about that same conversation with Eric Davis.
4 different alien species that he knows of?
Yeah, that was not what I expected him to say. But yeah, he said.
So who is this guy?
This is Eric Davis. Has been involved in the intelligence community since the 80s, right? So he's
for a long time.
For a long time, and he first worked for Bigelow Aerospace, and then he went on to get work for the Pentagon, and then CIA. And, basically researching what they describe as crashed material, retrieved crashed material.
And he was saying definitively they know of 4 alien species. Like, he's saying they're real.
Right. Now, whenever I pressed him and asked him, at least in that setting, he did not say that he personally has seen these, right? But he described the 4 different types of aliens, the Greys, the Nordics, the insectoids, and the reptilians that are commonly referred to in the UFO community. They would not just blend into the population.
No.
And that's at least, and I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying that's what I've been told.
What if they're just people from the future?
I think that's an interesting thought experiment, right? That what we're experiencing are future generations of humans who have mastered time travel. And if you master time travel today, wouldn't you want to go back and see what was going on in
well, you'd have
history? I would.
You'd have to.
I'd want to. I'd want to go back and see, hey, I want to see what the Pharaoh really looked like.
Okay.
I want to see what
confounds me, though, as someone who's not just a skeptic, but someone who just straight up doesn't believe in aliens. If that were true, would the powers that be in the intelligence agencies really just come right out and talk about it so openly?
They don't, though.
Well, we just heard that.
Well, this guy's former, isn't he?
Well, no, I mean...
You're never former intelligence.
Well, I mean, what's happened is we've had 2 hearings now, and we've had whistleblowers come forth, like David Grush. And they have forced the conversation into the public arena. They forced the conversation. Then you have guys like Congressman Burleson and his colleagues who are fighting for disclosure. Without that battle, without that effort, you wouldn't be hearing about any of this. You wouldn't have these guys coming forward. You wouldn't have Eric Davis coming forward and making these declarations. Wouldn't necessarily call it a declaration. He was answering your question. But this is a new environment. We're in a new space now, post hearings, post UAP hearings, and so
I think
5 years ago I would have agreed with you, but that's just not the case anymore.
I think the reason they don't say it is because, just put it this way, how would you feel if you woke up and realized you were in a rat cage your whole life and everything you knew was just some stupid rat experiment for somebody, Like when we look at rats in a cage in a lab, we pity them. What if everything you've ever done in your life, everything you hoped for, your dreams, you woke up tomorrow and you knew was completely meaningless? The research you've done, the religion you held, everything was just totally nonsense.
So that you're living in a simulation.
So what do you think, Vetters? That seems like a lot to take in, right? It's hard to know, how confident is Eric Davis in stipulating those 4 different species, and that's all there is? And what if they are just future humans? How do we know really anything, right, as far as confirming this? That's what I find the most interesting, that how Eric Davis is just so sure of things, and he says it so matter-of-factly. I just don't even know how that's possible. Even if those beings had told you who they are or what they are or where they're from, you're like, how do you even trust that, right? So wouldn't you leave just a little caveat with, based on my research or based on our research, this is what we think? But again, they don't say it that way, do they? Right? So that's, I don't know, just interesting. But I will say this, Eric Davis just joined the UAP Disclosure Fund and is giving skiff briefings to members of Congress. So clearly this shook a tree and, right, this got something going. So, we'll have to wait and see. Look, I readily admit I don't know anything, and clearly Eric Davis is 1,000 times smarter than I am, and more knowledgeable about this subject, and been in positions to know more things than I will ever in my life. So, yeah, I could be wrong, but I'm just asking questions. I don't know. I would love to ask Eric Davis that, right? That specific part. Okay, I've heard everything you said, but how are you so sure of these facts, right? And see if he leaves a little caveat, a little room to be wrong, because I would find that more credible, to be honest with you. But again, what do I know? Let me know what you think in the comments, y'all. We'll see you guys on the next one. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.